Maya Owens had never been on a private jet before. At 11 years old, her world was a small apartment in Atlanta, a school uniform she ironed herself every morning, a grandmother who braided her hair before church, and a mother who worked 18-hour days to keep the lights on. Private jets were something that existed in music videos and Instagram posts, not in Maya's life. But 3 days ago, everything changed. Maya's mother, Diane Owens, had spent the last 6 years quietly building a consulting firm that nobody believed in. She had been laughed out of boardrooms, denied loans by banks who looked at her application with bored eyes, and turned down by investors who couldn't see what she saw. She had kept going anyway, waking before sunrise, sleeping after midnight, sacrificing vacations and rest and sometimes even dinner, because she believed in something. And then, last Tuesday, a technology company in New York signed a deal with Diane's firm worth $4.2 million. The first thing Diane did wasn't buy a car. It wasn't book a vacation. She called her mother. "Mama," she said, her voice trembling, "pack a bag. We're going to New York. All 3 of us." Grandma Amara, who had raised Diane alone after her father left, who had worked 2 jobs for 30 years so her daughter could go to college, who had never once complained even when her knees ached so badly she couldn't sleep, listened quietly on the phone and then said, "Baby, are you sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything," Diane told her. That was how the 3 of them ended up in a private terminal in Atlanta, boarding a jet that Diane had chartered because she wanted her mother, just once, to feel like royalty. The first hour of the flight was everything Diane had dreamed of. Maya pressed her face against the window and watched the clouds like she was seeing them for the first time. Grandma Amara laughed softly at how big the leather seats were, running her hands over the armrests like she was reading Braille. Diane ordered sparkling water and fruit platters and sat across from her mother, watching her, trying to memorize every line on her face in that moment. This was everything. And then Serena, the flight attendant assigned to their cabin, began. It was subtle at first. The kind of thing that makes you question whether you imagined it. When Diane asked for the fruit platter, Serena brought it promptly and smiled warmly. When Maya asked for a juice, Serena returned within 2 minutes with a glass garnished with a little mint leaf. But when Grandma Amara quietly raised her hand and asked, "Excuse me, dear, may I have some hot water for my tea?" Serena looked at her, paused, and said, "I'll see what I can do when I have a moment." 20 minutes passed. Diane noticed. She looked at her mother, who simply smiled and shook her head as if to say, "Don't make a scene." Grandma Amara had spent a lifetime not making scenes. Diane flagged Serena down again. "My mother asked for hot water about 20 minutes ago." Serena tilted her head. "We've been managing several requests. I'll get to it." She walked to the back of the jet and disappeared. Another 15 minutes passed. Maya had been watching all of this from her window seat with very wide, very still eyes. She was 11 years old, but she had grown up watching her grandmother be overlooked, dismissed, and spoken past. In grocery stores, in doctors' offices, in church hallways, in restaurants. She had seen it enough times to know exactly what it looked like. Serena returned. Not with hot water, but with a second glass of sparkling water for Diane, which Diane had not asked for. "Excuse me," Maya said. Her voice was small but completely steady. "My grandmother asked for hot water 35 minutes ago." Serena looked at Maya with the particular expression adults reserve for children who speak out of turn. "Sweetheart, I'm managing the whole cabin. There are 3 people on this jet," Maya said. Diane inhaled sharply. Serena's expression shifted. Not to embarrassment, but to the kind of cold calm that people wear when they feel entitled. She turned to Diane. "Ma'am, I'd appreciate it if you could manage." "She asked you a simple question," Diane said quietly. Her voice had changed. It was the voice she used in boardrooms when someone tried to talk over her. Controlled, certain, final. Serena began to say something else. Something justifying, something explaining, and that was the moment Maya stood up. She stood up in her seat, pointed directly at Serena, and said the 4 words clearly and without hesitation. "You need to stop." The entire cabin fell silent. Serena stared at Maya. Maya stared back. "You keep ignoring my grandma," Maya said. "She has said please every single time. She is not being rude. She is not complaining. She just wanted hot water. And you keep walking past her like she's not even here. Maya's voice cracked just slightly at the end, but she didn't look away. I see it. I see exactly what you're doing. And you need to stop. Nobody moved. Grandma Amara turned slowly and looked at her granddaughter with an expression that was impossible to describe. Part heartbreak, part overwhelming love, part pride so deep it had no bottom. Diane set down her water glass very carefully. And then a voice came from the back of the jet. The woman in purple, Ms. Renata Cole, the senior charter liaison who had boarded quietly in Atlanta and had been reviewing documents at the rear of the cabin, stood up. She had been silent for the entire flight. But she had seen everything. Flight attendant, Ms. Cole said, her voice carrying the particular authority of someone who did not need to raise it, please bring hot water immediately. And then I will need to speak with you privately. Serena went pale. Within 2 minutes, a delicate ceramic cup of steaming hot water sat on the tray table in front of Grandma Amara, along with a small selection of teas in a wooden box that had apparently been available the entire time. Grandma Amara looked at the cup for a long moment. Then she looked at Maya. Come here, baby, she said softly. Maya slid out of her seat and walked to her grandmother, who took her face in both hands the way she had done since Maya was 2 years old, and said, quietly, so only Maya could hear, you are going to change the world. The rest of the flight passed in near silence. When they landed in New York, Ms. Cole handed Diane a card and told her that the charter company would be issuing a formal review of the incident. Serena was removed from the return flight. But none of that was what stayed with Maya. What stayed with Maya, what she would carry for the rest of her life, was the feeling of her grandmother's hands on her face at 35,000 feet. And the absolute certainty that sometimes, standing up is the simplest and most important thing a person can ever do. Diane Owens built a business worth millions. But her 11-year-old daughter, in a 4-word sentence, built something worth infinitely more. A sus años, su mundo era un pequeño apartamento en Atlanta, un uniforme escolar que ella misma planchaba cada mañana, una abuela que le trenzaba el cabello antes de la iglesia, y una madre que trabajaba 18 horas al día para mantener la luz encendida. Los jets privados existen en los videos musicales y en Instagram, no en la vida de Maya. Pero 3 días atrás, todo cambió. La madre de Maya, Diane Owens, había pasado los últimos 6 años construyendo en silencio una firma de consultoría en la que nadie creía. La habían ridiculizado en salas de juntas, la habían negado préstamos bancarios con miradas aburridas, y los inversionistas la habían rechazado una y otra vez. Pero ella siguió adelante. Despertando antes del amanecer, durmiendo después de medianoche, sacrificando vacaciones, descanso, y a veces hasta la cena, porque creía en algo. Y entonces, el martes pasado, una empresa tecnológica en Nueva York firmó un contrato con la firma de Diane por 4.2 millones de dólares. Lo primero que hizo Diane no fue comprarse un auto. No fue reservar unas vacaciones. Llamó a su madre. Mamá, dijo con voz temblorosa, haz una maleta. Nos vamos a Nueva York. Los tres. La abuela Amara, quien había criado a Diane sola después de que el padre se fue. Quien había trabajado 2 empleos durante 30 años para que su hija pudiera ir a la universidad. Quien jamás se había quejado aunque le dolieran tanto los rodillas que no pudiera dormir. Asuco en silencio y luego dijo, mija, ¿estás segura? Nunca he estado más segura de nada, le respondió Diane. Así fue como los tres llegaron a una terminal privada en Atlanta. Abordando un jet que Diane había contratado porque quería que su madre, al menos una vez, se sintiera como una reina. La primera hora del vuelo fue todo lo que Diane había soñado. Maya pegó su cara a la ventana y miró los nubes como si los viera por primera vez. La abuela Amara reía suavemente de lo grandes que eran los asientos de cuero, pasando las manos por los apoyabrazos como si liara braille. Diane pidió agua con gas y una bandeja de frutas y se sentó frente a su madre, mirándola, intentando memorizar cada línea de su rostro en ese momento. Esto era todo. Y entonces Serena. La azafata asignada a su cabina, comenzó. Al principio fue sutil. El tipo de cosa que te hace dudar si lo imaginaste. Cuando Diane pidió la bandeja de frutas, Serena la trajo de inmediato con una sonrisa cálida. Cuando Maya pidió un jugo, Serena regresó en 2 minutos con un vaso adornado con una hojita de menta. Pero cuando la abuela Amara levantó la mano con calma y dijo, disculpa, querida, me puedes traer agua caliente para mi té. Serena la miró, hizo una pausa, y dijo, veré que puedo hacer cuando tenga un momento.